conference room lights buzzed softly, and the city blinked outside the glass like distant code. Evans set his brief on the table, joking about curses and deadlines that never die. Maya kept reading the merger pages, jaw tight, as if the words were already handcuffs. Evan grabbed a bottled water, twisted the cap, and drank fast to clear his throat. He exhaled, then coughed once, and his smile collapsed into shock and wide, wet eyes. In his hand, the clear water suddenly clouded, then turned into pale slush within a heartbeat. Evan clutched his neck, trying to inhale, but the sound came thin and scraping back. He staggered against the chair, fell hard beside the table, and went still as phones started ringing. For a moment, the office felt haunted, as if someone had ordered ice to erase a life. Maya stared at the slushy bottle, certain she had witnessed a curse disguised as ordinary water. Detective Lena arrived before sunrise, when the hallway already smelled like coffee and stale fear. 2 officers held the door, while staff whispered the word curse like it could explain anything. Maya pointed to the table and repeated the same sentence. Water turned to ice in seconds. Lena watched the slush settle, then looked for what never lies: routine, access, and motive. She asked who else worked late, and Maya named Jordan, the other lawyer, signing at 9. Lena's jaw tightened, because schedules are targets when money is loud and deadlines are sharp. She called the county lab and requested a specialist who understood cold like a language. 10 minutes later, Ray arrived in work boots, carrying a case of tools and sensors. Ray used to build industrial refrigeration systems, then switched careers after a fatal freezer accident. He spoke softly, but his hands were steady, like he had repaired disasters in silence before. Lena showed him the bottle without touching it, and he studied the rim and threads. Ray said, "This isn't normal freezing, because ice doesn't race like that without a trigger." Lena asked for plain English, and Ray nodded toward the office fridge and its tiny freezer shelf. "Water can sit below freezing and stay liquid," Ray said, "if nothing starts crystal growth." Lena heard Maya gasp again, and she saw fear spreading like ink through the staff. Ray asked where the water came from, and Maya mentioned a weekly delivery and filter service. Lena wrote the vendor name, because access often hides inside uniforms and polite scheduled visits. Her phone buzzed with a memo about the merger, the one Jordan had fought all week. Maya admitted Jordan planned to refuse the signature unless new terms protected their smaller clients. Lena understood the stakes, because refusal could cost billions and embarrass powerful people publicly today. Ray requested the remaining water cases, because patterns live in what looks identical at first. An officer returned with a sealed case, and Ray carefully numbered each bottle like evidence. Lena called Jordan's cell, but it went to voicemail, and that silence suddenly felt engineered. She sent a unit to Jordan's apartment and ordered him to drink nothing from bottles. She told Maya to stay close, because witnesses vanish when corporations start making friendly calls. Ray asked for security logs, since delivery crews and maintenance staff can enter without attracting attention. Lena promised Jordan protection until the signing, because survival mattered more than any contract clause. Ray looked at the clock and said, "We have hours, not days, before someone tries again." Ray asked Lena for a clean room, a freezer, and unopened water bottles immediately. They moved into the break room, where fluorescent lights made everything look clinical and honest. Ray placed 3 identical bottles on the counter and pointed toward the office refrigerator quietly. "His fridge is cold," Ray said, "but it doesn't always freeze water evenly inside." Lena crossed her arms, watching closely, because evidence must be seen to be believed. Ray placed a thermometer inside the freezer compartment and waited without speaking or explaining further. He placed another thermometer beside the bottles, creating a simple comparison anyone could understand instantly. Maya stood near the door, hugging herself, afraid the air itself had turned dangerous tonight. Ray picked up one bottle and held it against the bright overhead light carefully. "Water normally freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit," Ray said, keeping his voice calm and simple. "But freezing needs a starting point, something that helps crystals begin forming inside water." Lena frowned slightly. "You mean water doesn't freeze automatically when it's cold enough outside?" Ray nodded slowly. "Cold is necessary, but cold alone does not guarantee crystal formation immediately." He explained it like a mechanic describing an engine waiting for a spark to start. Water molecules must organize into patterns. Ray said, drawing invisible shapes in the air. They need a template, a tiny structure, to lock into place and grow outward. He placed the bottle gently inside the freezer and closed the small plastic door carefully. They waited several minutes while the compressor hummed quietly beneath the refrigerator frame below. Ray watched the thermometer reading drop below, freezing without showing any excitement yet. He opened the freezer slowly and removed the bottle with steady, deliberate, careful hands. The water inside looked perfectly normal, clear, calm, and completely harmless to everyone watching. Lena leaned forward, suspicious, expecting something dramatic to happen immediately before her eyes. Ray placed the bottle upright on the counter without shaking or disturbing it unnecessarily. "This water is now colder than freezing," Ray said, "but still completely liquid right now." Maya stared, confused, because the bottle looked no different from any ordinary water container. Ray reached into his kit and removed a sealed packet of sterile fine powder. He opened it carefully and touched a wooden toothpick against a single tiny grain. "This grain will act as a seed," Ray said, showing it to Lena clearly. He tapped the bottle rim gently once, barely touching the plastic surface at all. Nothing happened for a brief moment, and Lena almost thought the demonstration had failed. Then the water suddenly flashed cloudy, and white crystals exploded downward through the liquid instantly. Ice spread through the bottle like lightning, racing faster than the eye could comfortably follow. The liquid became pale slush within 1 second, exactly like Evan's deadly office bottle. Maya gasped loudly and stepped backward, terrified by the speed of transformation happening here. Lena stayed still, but her eyes hardened as understanding replaced disbelief completely inside her. "This is called supercooling," Ray said, pointing at the slush-filled demonstration bottle now. Water stayed liquid because nothing told it how to start freezing before now. He held up the toothpick with remaining powder still clinging to its rough surface. This grain gave the molecules a pattern to copy and follow instantly together. Lena spoke carefully. "So the trigger doesn't need to be large or visible clearly." Ray nodded. "It can be microscopic, hidden inside dust, powder, or rough surface scratches." He pointed to the bottle rim and threading where lips and fingers often touch. "That area collects particles easily, and particles can become freezing triggers immediately afterward," Maya whispered. So Evan's bottle was waiting, just like this demonstration bottle here tonight. Ray met her eyes. Yes, waiting silently until someone activated the freezing process deliberately. Lena asked the question already forming in her mind since the demonstration began quietly. Someone placed that seed intentionally, knowing exactly what would happen next to Evan. Ray answered without hesitation. "Yes, and that means this was never an accident." He looked toward the unopened bottle still resting quietly on the counter nearby. "And it also means someone can prepare another bottle right now for Jordan." By midnight, Ray delivered the bottle to the forensic lab downtown quietly. The building smelled like bleach, paperwork, and conclusions waiting to be assigned prematurely tonight. Lena watched technicians catalog the bottle like any other routine accidental death evidence. Hours later, the toxicology report arrived. Thin and disappointingly ordinary for everyone involved. No poison appeared in the water, plastic or residue inside the container examined. No drugs appeared in Evan's blood that explained sudden airway failure or panic. Lena read the report twice, hoping the words would change under pressure tonight somehow. They did not change, and that silence carried consequences larger than the office. Without toxins, the death could be labeled accidental choking during ordinary drinking activity. Accidents close files quickly, especially when corporations prefer silence over uncomfortable investigations publicly. Accidents do not create suspects, and suspects do not threaten billion-dollar merger schedules. Lena knew prosecutors preferred certainty, even when certainty hid deeper, deliberate mechanisms carefully. Ray stood beside her, studying the report without visible frustration or visible relief either. He tapped the page once, as if the blank spaces mattered more than text. "This report only proves poison was not used," Ray said quietly. "It does not prove no weapon existed inside that bottle earlier tonight." Lena nodded, because absence of toxins did not explain instant violent freezing behavior. The freezing itself was the mechanism, and mechanisms could still be engineered deliberately. If they failed now, Evan's death would become a footnote in corporate paperwork. Jordan would sign tomorrow, and fear would achieve what persuasion could never accomplish. Lena folded the report slowly and made a decision that risked her career credibility. "We do not close this as accidental," she said firmly. "We find the trigger, or the trigger finds another throat tomorrow morning instead." Ray requested high magnification scans of the bottle rim and inner thread surfaces immediately. Technicians placed the bottle under microscopes usually reserved for fibers and ballistic residue analysis. Under magnification, the plastic surface stopped looking smooth and started telling secrets clearly. Tiny particles clung inside the threading grooves where lips and fingers normally contacted plastic. Ray leaned closer, adjusting focus until the shapes sharpened into crystalline fragments visible clearly. They looked sharp, angular, and structured in ways random dust rarely appears naturally. Lena watched the screen, unsure what made these particles different from ordinary debris nearby. Ray pointed carefully, explaining without using complicated laboratory terminology unnecessarily tonight. "These are nucleation crystals," Ray said quietly. "They give water a pattern to freeze instantly and violently on contact." He ran a microprobe across the particles, measuring composition and crystalline structure quickly. The readout confirmed synthetic crystalline material, not environmental dust from ordinary office air. Maya stood behind them, afraid to breathe, while the answer revealed itself slowly. "So someone placed freezing seeds exactly where Evan's mouth touched the bottle," she whispered. Ray nodded slowly. "Only a few grains are enough to trigger instant crystallization." Lena felt anger replace uncertainty, because accidents do not place microscopic weapons carefully. Accidents do not hide engineered crystals precisely where victims drink without suspicion. This discovery broke the illusion of coincidence completely and permanently for everyone present. Someone had prepared the bottle deliberately, expecting timing and physics to complete the attack. Lena looked at Ray. "This is attempted murder, not environmental coincidence." Ray answered simply, "Yes, and someone with access prepared the trigger earlier tonight." Lena requested building access logs covering the previous 48 hours immediately afterward. Security footage showed employees, cleaners, and delivery staff entering predictable, familiar patterns nightly. Ray asked specifically about water deliveries and filter maintenance schedules within that time frame. Maya confirmed the same vendor handled bottled water and filtration system replacements regularly. Delivery staff entered offices freely, because nobody questions people delivering basic necessities routinely. Routine creates invisibility, and invisibility creates opportunity for deliberate, unnoticed interference inside offices. Lena reviewed footage showing a technician entering the office early yesterday morning alone. He wore gloves, carried equipment, and moved without attracting attention from anyone nearby. He replaced filters, adjusted dispensers, and handled water cases directly without supervision present. Every bottle passed through his hands before reaching the conference room table eventually. Ray pointed at the screen. He had access, opportunity, and physical contact with bottles. Lena nodded slowly, feeling the suspect emerge from routine invisibility into dangerous clarity. The technician could apply microscopic crystals without attracting suspicion or leaving visible evidence. This was not sabotage from outside, but manipulation from inside trusted maintenance routines. The weapon traveled disguised as ordinary service, hidden behind professionalism and predictable schedules. Lena requested the technician's name, employment file, and current scheduled maintenance appointment immediately. The reply came quickly. "Filter replacement scheduled tomorrow morning before office hours begin." Before Jordan signing, Ray and Lena exchanged a look, understanding the timeline without needing further explanation spoken. The attacker planned continued access, expecting another opportunity before witnesses arrived tomorrow morning. Lena realized warning Jordan alone would not stop the attacker permanently tonight. Fear could delay the attack, but fear would not identify the person responsible clearly. Ray proposed a controlled trap using physics, sensors, and careful preparation, avoiding human risk. "We create a bottle that cannot harm anyone but reveals the attacker clearly," Ray said. He designed a sealed bottle equipped with temperature sensors and vibration detection immediately. He added a hidden mesh barrier preventing slush from reaching anyone drinking experimentally. The bottle would detect freezing attempts instantly without risking another human airway obstruction. It would reveal the attacker's moment of contact without risking another unintended fatal outcome. Lena agreed, because catching intent mattered more than waiting for another tragedy tomorrow. They placed the trap bottle inside the office, exactly where Jordan normally reached daily. They informed Jordan privately, ordering him to avoid all bottles without exception strictly. Jordan agreed reluctantly, understanding survival mattered more than convenience or professional routine. Now the trap waited silently, disguised as ordinary water among identical, harmless bottles nearby. The attacker would see opportunity, unaware physics itself had switched sides tonight quietly. Ray watched the sensors, knowing the next touch would reveal the hidden hand clearly. Because physics never lies, even when people believe ice obeys their command. Jordan arrived before sunrise, escorted by officers who treated him like fragile evidence. He looked angry, but anger could not hide the fear behind his steady breathing. Lena closed the conference room door and placed the merger contract on table. Jordan stared at it, like it belonged to someone already dead inside him. "You refuse to sign," Lena said calmly, watching his reaction carefully now. Jordan nodded once. "I refused because it destroys people who trusted our promises." Maya stood nearby, silent, knowing the contract carried more weight than paper. Jordan pointed at the signature line like it was an execution order already waiting. "They pressured Evan to convince me," Jordan said, voice tight with remembered arguments. "He said resistance would cost careers, licenses, and futures if I stayed stubborn." Ray listened quietly, recognizing pressure as a force like temperature and structural weakness. Pressure makes systems fail, especially when applied slowly and without visible fingerprints. Lena asked, "Who benefits most if you stop resisting this merger today completely?" Jordan laughed bitterly. "Everyone above me who already promised completion deadlines publicly." He leaned forward, lowering his voice as if walls themselves were listening carefully. "They do not need my approval. Only the appearance of agreement and stability," Maya whispered. Evan supported the merger, even when others quietly hesitated privately. Jordan nodded slowly. He believed compliance protected him from becoming expendable later. Ray spoke carefully. Then Evan was not the target, but the demonstration. Jordan looked confused, processing the possibility of mistaken identity slowly inside himself. "You mean the bottle was meant for me instead of Evan yesterday evening?" Lena answered quietly. "Yes," and Evan became the unintended casualty of timing. Silence filled the room, heavy and unavoidable as gravity pulling everything downward. Jordan stared at his hands, imagining ice forming where breath should exist normally. Ray explained the logic without drama, using plain language everyone could accept easily. If someone wanted you dead, easier methods existed without theatrical freezing mechanisms. He paused, letting the reasoning settle inside their understanding, slowly and completely. "This method creates fear first, compliance second, and death only if necessary," Maya whispered. "Fear changes decisions faster than persuasion or negotiation ever could." Lena nodded. "Fear rewrites priorities instantly, especially when survival becomes uncertain suddenly." Jordan looked back at the contract, understanding its power had changed overnight completely. "They wanted me to see Evan die and imagine myself next immediately afterward." Ray nodded once. "Death becomes the fastest way to erase resistance permanently," Lena added quietly. "A dead man cannot refuse, argue, or delay signature deadlines anymore." Jordan exhaled slowly, realizing how close he had come to becoming leverage himself. The attacker did not need murder first, only obedience forced by visible possibility. But physics had revealed the hidden mechanism, and fear would not finish its task. The trap bottle waited on the desk, silent and indistinguishable from others nearby. Ray watched sensor readings on his tablet, every number steady and calm. Lena stood near the hallway, pretending routine paperwork filled her morning attention. Jordan stayed inside another room, guarded and forbidden from touching any bottle. At 6:17, the elevator doors opened, and the technician stepped out calmly. His uniform was clean, his smile polite, his presence completely ordinary and expected. He pushed a cart carrying replacement filters and fresh water cases forward slowly. Routine protected him better than any disguise or weapon possibly could elsewhere. Lena nodded politely. "Morning," she said, watching his eyes carefully now. He nodded back. "Routine maintenance," he answered, voice relaxed and confident today. He moved toward the dispenser first, performing expected checks without hesitation whatsoever. Then his eyes shifted briefly toward the desk, holding the trap bottle nearby. Ray noticed the glance immediately and held his breath without realizing consciously. Predators always look at targets, even when pretending professional disinterest outwardly. The technician stepped closer to the desk, adjusting his gloves deliberately and slowly. His hand moved casually toward the bottleneck, like harmless cleaning motion. Ray's tablet beeped sharply, signaling vibration exactly where the bottle stood waiting. Sensor data confirmed contact, precise and undeniable evidence unfolding in real time. Lena stepped forward instantly. "Stop," she said, voice calm but final today. The technician froze, surprise breaking his mask for the first time completely. Officers closed behind him, blocking escape routes without raising unnecessary panic publicly. Ray approached carefully, holding a portable ultraviolet lamp from his equipment case. He illuminated the technician's gloves, revealing faint crystalline powder glowing under ultraviolet light. The glow matched the nucleation particles found on Evan's fatal bottle precisely. The technician's shoulders dropped, knowing physics had betrayed his careful invisible method. He whispered, "It was supposed to scare him, not kill the other lawyer." Lena answered quietly, "Fear was your weapon, and ice was your message." Officers secured his hands, removing gloves and preserving evidence for inevitable prosecution. Jordan watched from behind glass, alive because science had exposed hidden intent. Maya covered her mouth, relief shaking through her like thaw after endless winter. Ray turned off the lamp, knowing the cold weapon had finally failed. Days later, Lena stood inside her captain's office, holding new assignment paperwork. She had earned promotion leading investigations involving unusual scientific criminal methods nationwide. Ray received an official contract as forensic consultant specializing in thermal mechanism crimes. His expertise would prevent physics from becoming silent weapon in careless hands again. Jordan refused the merger publicly, no longer controlled by engineered fear or intimidation. The contract died quietly, unable to erase resistance through invisible frozen threats anymore. Ray returned to his lab, where cold remained science instead of deliberate violence. He understood something simple that others learned too late in dangerous circumstances. Water obeys physics, not people, even when people believe they command ice.